Hello and welcome back to another Todd E. Walnuts collection overview video. Today it's been overcast and raining off and on all day in the great state of Wisconsin. So I thought I would go ahead and record a video. It's been about, I think, 8 months since I did a Vinegar Syndrome collection overview video. I just kind of was going through cleaning a little bit today and I thought I would kind of update the collection and share it with you guys out there in YouTube land. So come on in, make yourself comfortable, kick your feet up, relax, get a beverage, get a snack. Let us go through and check out the Vinegar Syndrome collection. Alrighty, thank you for joining me here at the Walnuts compound in the great state of Wisconsin. Let's start here on the top shelf. In this collection, I have shown this many times before. I do have quite a few that I've added in the last 6, 8, 10 months. The collection consists of 5 shelves, which are these 2, 3, 4, and 5. They are mostly Blu-ray. I do have a little bit of DVDs here on the end on the 5th shelf. So I'm going to go through and give some suggestions, show you guys what I have, give you some ideas of what you can add to your collection. And as always, if you'd like to leave a comment and suggest something to me, I'm always open to that. So let's start here with the first one. This was a slasher movie starring Christopher Walken called All American Murder. This was pretty decent. It was about middle of the road. As far as a slasher movie goes, it was pretty good, but it wasn't great. I have the Amityville Cursed collection, and in this set you get, let me see if I can read that, its print is very small here. Amityville, The Evil Escapes. Get a good, let's see if I can get a better angle here. Amityville 1992, It's About Time. Amityville, A New Generation, and Amityville Dollhouse. Yeah, pretty decent movies. Possessed, haunted house possession type movie. I'm going to open it up and show you guys what the movies look like. So here is what the 4 movie cases look like. They each do come in their own case. So you have the Amityville 1992, It's About Time. Amityville, A New Generation. Amityville 4, The Evil Escapes. And Amityville Dollhouse. It comes in a really nice box, very thick. Nice box. It looks like the Amityville house. So let's keep moving. Okay, so moving right along here, we have Auntie Lee's Meat Pies, which is a dark comedy horror. And then the next one is a twin billing. You get Battle for the Lost Planet, which is a low-budget sci-fi. And then you also get Mutant War. This was a really nice box set. This is called the Beast Master. And this one's still available, I believe, on their website. It's a really nice edition. John Saxon in the Bees, Killer Bee movie. Killer Bee movie. I thought this one was pretty decent. It's called Berserker. It's kind of a backwoods slasher, very low budget. Pretty clever kills in it. I enjoyed it. Looks like a Pink Floyd album cover. Next one's called Best Friends, a sexploitation film. It's a I think it's like a revenge type movie. She became the ravaged victim of a century of revenge. There you have it. This one's called Beware, Children at Play. Killer Kids movies. The next one is called Beware, My Brethren. Still have yet to watch this one. I've been trying to watch a couple movies a week. I have so many to catch up on. This one's called Beyond the Door 3. Very low budget movie. Something that kind of like Troma would put out, or Full Moon. It's called Blades. About a killer lawnmower. Kind of a tongue-in-cheek, another black comedy, I think, dark comedy. Blood Beat. I did watch this one a long time ago, and I'm kind of drawing a blank on it. It's a movie from 1982. But you do get some pretty good special features there if you want to pause that and read it. I'm not going to go through all of it, but it's a Blu-ray DVD combo, and it is all region. This one's called Blood Games. Another kind of a revenge type movie. Scorned women go on a revenge spree. This one's called Blood Hook. This one was filmed in the great state of Wisconsin where I live. Movie from 1986. It's pretty ridiculous, but I had fun with it. Here's a holiday-themed slasher movie called Bloody New Year. And I always do enjoy the holiday-themed horror movies. They're pretty good. I love that cover, too. A pretty decent slasher. Next one's called Blue Vengeance. This is another one I have not seen yet, but eventually I will. Movie from 1989. Again, it has some pretty decent special features there. Another horror comedy, dark comedy called The Bloodsuckers from Outer Space. There's a splatter film called Body Melt. This one was this one sold out pretty quick a while ago. This sold out a couple of years ago. And I think it's going for some pretty good money now. That's the thing about these movies, not just for Vinegar Syndrome, but Scream Factory, Arrow Video. If they put out a like a collector's edition with a nice slipcover and it sells out, they usually go for pretty good money on secondary markets. You guys know how that works. This one's Blood Harvest, starring Tiny Tim. I watched this movie once in my life, and I don't think I would ever watch it again. It was worth a one-time watch, but for myself, I just didn't enjoy it enough to. It doesn't warrant a second viewing for me. So, next one's called Blood Theater, and it looks like there's two versions of the film. Let me see here if I'm reading that right. Or is it two? It looks like there might be two movies on here. I'm not quite sure because it says from the damaged mind of director Rick Sloan, who did Hobgoblins, comes Blood Theater and The Visitants. And it's saying one was from 84 and one was from 87. So this might be a twin billing. I'm not quite sure. Maybe one of you guys can help me with that. Or maybe it's the same movie and it was just edited to another title. I know that's happened before. Next one is called The Caller. This one is new to the collection, or newer. I don't believe it was in the last update video. This one's called the Cardona Collection, Volume 1. Comes in this nice slipcover, slip box. In this movie, you get 3 movies. This collection, you get Treasure of the Amazon, Triangle, the Bermuda Mystery, and Cyclone. Comes in a nice outer shell slip box with 1 entry point. This one was pretty fun. I had a good time with it, called The Cellar. Kind of a creature feature movie. It's pretty good. Next one is called Cemetery of Terror. This is a Spanish horror movie. I believe it is in Spanish language only, if I remember, but you can watch it with English subtitles. Thought it was pretty good. This one is called Censor, and this is a more modern horror movie. I think this came out within the last 5 years or so. Let me check that. Okay, so this was the movie. This was a horror movie based on a horror movie within the movie. So the movie was called Censor, and inside the movie there was another movie playing called Asunder. It's hard to explain, but this was what the slipcover looked like. This is Beast Man, I believe, was the name of the movie within the movie. And according to the back of the Emery case, it came out in 2021. It is 84 minutes running time. It is Region A locked, according to the back of the box. So this is a pretty cool release. I like the way that looks. Okay, so moving right along, we go up to the movie called The Children, another Killer Kids movie. And another holiday horror movie, Christmas slasher called Christmas Evil. Pretty good. Thought it was a pretty good movie. I think that cover looks amazing. It's a Christmas slasher and a mental institution movie wrapped into one, which I'm all in on those. I think those are great. Here's another really nice box set that's pretty new to the collection. This is called Cloak and Dagger. I picked this one up during the halfway to Black Friday sale. It's a movie I haven't seen since the 80s, and so I have to revisit it. I'm looking forward to doing that soon. But it's a really beautiful box set, and this is another one I strongly recommend. Next one is called In the Cold of Night. This is a Nico Mastorakis movie. Pretty good movie. Here's an Italian crime movie, kind of a giallo type movie called The Corruption of Chris Miller. This was very well shot. I love the scenery, and the kills were pretty brutal. It's a movie from the 70s, and it does have that 70s aura vibe to it with the different cars and clothing and stuff like that. It's a very good movie. I enjoy this one. I recommend this one to anybody. Next one's called Count Dracula's Great Love. Have not watched this one yet. Picked this one up on sale as well a while ago, maybe a couple of years ago. This one's called Creature. It's a sci-fi horror movie. It says, what does it say there? It's been sleeping peacefully on a moon of Saturn for 2,000 centuries until now. Pretty cool. This one's called Cthulhu Mansion. And the last time I did an update on this collection, I had mentioned that I didn't see this one, and a couple people chimed in and said, you got to check it out. So I watched it, and it was pretty good. Next one here is called Curfew. This was fairly new to the collection. I believe I picked this up since my last update video 8 months ago. And then I have a bunch of the Cutting Class movie, this is all the same movie. It's just different slipcovers that came like a little collector's deal here that they had going on. It's all this exact same movie. They just released it with 5 different covers, which I will show all 5 of them. It's a pretty good slasher too, starring Brad Pitt, I believe, if I remember right. So that's one cover. You can see the different covers. Some were more rare than others, but it's all the same movie. I'll flip them all too so you can see them. Give me one moment here. I should probably pause it, but it'll go quick, just in case you guys are interested in seeing what the back looks like. So there we go. Trying to get that right angle so I don't get that light reflecting off those plastic protective cases. So those are cutting class. Let me pause it here. That is the end of shelf 1. We will continue on with shelf 2. Okay, so after I do this video, I think within the next couple days I'm going to do my Arrow video collection overview video again too. It's been a while since I've done that. And then I think at some point I will do like a top 25 release for Vinegar Syndrome. I'll do a video of that. If you guys are interested in that, comment below and let me know. And after I do the Arrow video collection overview video, I will do my favorite 25 releases from that company too. So be on the lookout for that. If you guys are interested, let me know. Next one's called Dark Room. This is one I have not watched yet. It's another Nico Mastorakis movie. I thought this one was pretty good. It was a sci-fi with a little bit of horror elements to it called Dark Tower. It was pretty good. James Hong is in that movie, I believe, if I remember. This one's called The Dead Come Home. I thought that cover looks really good. I like the blues and blacks together on that cover. It looks really nice. And then that splash of red font in the front. It's kind of like the cherry on top. This movie was also called The House on Tombstone Hill. One of my favorites called Dead Heat. I could watch this movie every year. I think it's very good. It's a cop buddy movie. It's kind of a horror comedy. Treat Williams and Joe Piscopo, and one of the cops, Treat Williams, gets killed, and they bring him back, and he only has a certain amount of time to solve a crime. This one's called Deadly Daphne's Revenge. I believe this is a Troma movie, if I remember. So I think I had a Troma box set on DVD years ago, which I still have, but I think this was one of the titles. It is a Troma movie. It's got the little Troma logo down there in the corner. But this was one of like 5 movies in a Troma tin that I have. At some point I'll show my box sets too. Next one's called Deadly Games. This is kind of a Christmas movie, action horror type movie, I guess, sci-fi, all wrapped into one. It's called Deadly Games Dial Code Santa Claus. Pretty cool release. And here's another one I believe is a Troma picture. This is called Dear Dead Delilah. And I think this was also in a box set. A Troma box set on DVD years ago. An action movie called Death Promise. Pretty cool cover too. Does that say filthy rich landlords get away with murder? It's time they pay for it. Love this franchise here, Death Wish 2. I hope that at some point they put them all out together because it would look really nice on the shelf together. Because Scream Factory has also released Death Wish 2, but I would like to see them all released. This one's called Demonoid. Sci-fi horror movie. This one's called Devil's Story. This one's very, very low budget. but there was a little bit of a charm to it. I think this was a French movie. Could be wrong about that. This one's pretty cool. This is called Demon Wind. It has a lenticular cover. Let me see if I can get that working here. Really nice. Demon is opening up that window and crashing through. Pretty cool. It's a movie from 1984. I thought it was pretty good too. Good creature feature horror movie. It was screaming 80s. It was definitely an 80s vibe to that movie, which is good. This one's called Disconnected. Movie from 1984 as well. All region. Blu-ray DVD combo. Horror movie about harassing phone calls. A little killer doll movie called Dolly Dearest. Slide that in there. The next one's called Dominique. Another kind of a mental patient movie. This one's pretty good. Don't answer the phone. Pretty suspenseful. Here's one that I really enjoy. I know a lot of people don't like this movie, and I get it. It's a very low budget, backwoods slasher movie. But this would definitely be a good twin billing with the movie called Night of the Demon, which was the Bigfoot movie. I recently showed that in a update video that I got. Let me see if I still have it out here. Yeah, hold on one second. This is not a Vinegar Syndrome movie. It's a Severin movie, but these would be a good twin billing to watch these back to back because they're very similar. This one is about there's a madman living in the woods, slashing, killing people, and this one is about a Bigfoot in the woods, slashing and killing people. But they're very similar premises to the movies, and a lot of the scenery looks very similar. And I really do love the backwoods slasher type movies. So that would definitely be a good 1-2 punch if you wanted to watch two movies together in one night. This one is another Spanish movie. I forget the title. I'm going to pause it here in a minute and tell the American title, the English title. But this one's called Dimensions Occultists. Another Spanish movie, and I believe this one is in Spanish only language, and you can watch it with English subtitles. Let me pause it here for a minute. So here's what it looks like when it's out of the slipcover. And I suppose I could probably get roasted for saying it was an American language, which is pretty ridiculous to say something like that, because it's English language. It's not as bad as the time I said it was in Mexican language instead of Spanish, though, so I guess cut me a little slack. But yeah, the original title's called Don't Panic, I guess, or that's the English title. And the Spanish title is Dimensions Occultists. I'm probably not pronouncing that properly either, but it's a movie from 1987. Let me see here. It's a Ruben Galindo Jr. movie. It has Spanish subtitles. It includes both the original English and the dubbed Spanish language soundtrack, so you can actually watch it in both English, American, or Mexican, Spanish. All right, let's keep moving. And don't be offended by the Mexican Spanish thing. I'm just trying to be funny, and I'm an idiot. So next one's called Double Exposure. This one also was put out by Scorpion Releasing on DVD back in the day. Vinegar Syndrome has released it really nice with a really nice edition. It cleaned it up. So it's called Dr. Jekyll's Dungeon of Death. I did watch this one. It was very weird, a very, very weird movie. It was very dark as far as the scenery and the way that the movie was shot. It was just every scene seemed like it was really dark and shadowy, and It didn't really add to the atmosphere because it was kind of confusing to see what was going on in a lot of the movie. This one is an adult themed horror movie. Apparently I have not had a chance to watch it yet. It's called Dre Goose. I don't know if that's the proper way to pronounce it, but it's a French, I believe it's kind of like a satanic adult film with an X-rated theme. I haven't watched it yet. This one's called Ebola Syndrome, Japanese kind of take on a zombie film. The 11th Commandment, another kind of a religious or anti-religion type movie. This one's called Evil Town. This was one of the VSA, whatever they call it. It's a pretty cool back cover, but these are limited to 2,500. I don't know if you can see that, but I have number 1481. This one's called Evils of the Night. Yeah, you can tell that there's definitely some rip-offs going on here. It says alien vampires have landed from outer space in search of one substance they need to survive, teenage blood. And if you take a look at that spacecraft there, you can see that there are definitely some rip-offs going on here. Then this movie, which was very good, I remember watching this on VHS back in the day. It's called Fade to Black. It had 2 different slipcover releases for the same movie. But this guy here is kind of the star of the show, and he's a movie buff, he's a horror fan, and he kind of lives out some of his fantasies, which are very dark fantasies, which turns that movie into a good horror movie. I thought it was very well done. This one's called The Fear. Tree People. Pretty good special effects in that movie. This one here is called Flesh Eater. It's a movie by Bill Heinzman, right there, who was the original graveyard ghoul in George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead from 1968. And this movie was a very well done homage to that movie. This movie very much reminded me of a George A. Romero movie, and it was very similar to the original Night of the Living Dead, and even Dawn of the Dead. It had some of those vibes too. It's not as good as those 2 original movies, but it can hold its own weight. I mean, it's a very good movie. It's very fun to watch. So if you guys are into that type of movie and you haven't seen this one, definitely check it out. You'll like it. It's very well done. It almost seems like it could have been part of that franchise. Here's another kind of a dark comedy, horror comedy called Flesh Eating Mothers. They bit off more than they could chew. And then we get into some pretty cool box sets here. I'm going to take these out one by one and show each release, but we'll start with, these are the Forgotten Gialli box sets. And this is volume 1. And in volume 1 you get Trauma, Police Are Blundering in the Dark, and The Killer is One of 13. And we'll just kind of do a quick panning here of the box. These boxes are beautiful. Then I'm going to pause it here and I'm going to show you each release. So here are the movies, each in their own case. So Police Are Blundering in the Dark. Killer is One of 13. And the Italians always had the best titles that would want to draw you in. They're very long titles. Police Are Blundering in the Dark is from 1975. I don't want to spend too much time on these because I do have a lot yet to show. The Killer is One of 13 is from 1973. And Trauma, this is not the Argento Trauma, this is a different one. This one is directed by Leon Klimovsky, 1978. And the box is beautiful. When you take off the top here, It looks like there's a wound, like a slash, and it's dripping blood. It looks really good. So let me pause it. We'll check out volume 2. Here is volume 2, and in this set you get Girl in Room 2A, My Dear Killer, and the French Sex Murders. Another beautiful box. I'll pause it. We'll pull the movies out. So here's what the art looks like. The Girl in Room 2A, the French Sex Murders, and My Dear Killer, starring George Hilton, who was also a spaghetti western actor. He was in quite a few of those type of movies. Take a look at the back, and then we'll take another quick look at the box. So Girl in Room 2A came out in 1974. The French Sex Murders came out in 72. You can see that low budget gore. You can clearly tell it's a dummy's head, but it's still pretty funny. And then My Dear Killer, which was probably the best one in this box set, was from 1972. And then here's another viewing of the top of the box, and then when you take the top off, you got those eyes piercing through the darkness with blood splatter. A butcher knife in the belly of a doll. So let's check out volume 3. So there's the front of Forgotten Gialli, volume 3. In this set, you get Autopsy, Murder Mansion, and Crazy Desires of a Murderer. Very good art on the box. These boxes are very sturdy. They look really good together on the shelves. And I like the graphics and the colors that they use. So let's pause it and check out the movies. Another great set that was put out by Vinegar Syndrome. This is the cover of Murder Mansion. Is that a beautiful cover or what? That would be a really nice poster to frame. You have Crazy Desires of a Murderer and Autopsy, which is a good movie. And then the back, Murder Mansion was from 72. Kind of like I think the early 70s were the final heyday of the Giallo films. I think this one's from 1977, Crazy Desires of a Murderer. I think they kind of peaked in the mid to late 60s. And by the mid to late 70s, it was kind of a done deal, I think. But Autopsy came out in 75. And then again, take a quick look there at the box. It's beautiful. Hopefully you guys had a chance to grab these. But yeah, if you can, grab them if you don't have them already. Let's check out volume 4. So here's the fourth one and the last one for this collection. This is Forgotten Gialli, volume 4. This is one I have not watched any of these yet. I haven't had a chance to. But you get Arabella, Black Angel, the sister of Ursula, and the killer is still among us. Just check out that art there on the box. It's beautiful. They really do a great job with this. So here's what the movies look like. The killer is still among us, the sister of Ursula, and Arabella. If you guys had a chance to watch any of these, let me know which ones I should check out first, or which order, or if it even matters. Or just let me know how you guys liked them without giving any spoilers, please. So The Killer is Still Among Us came out in 1986. The Sister of Ursula came out in 78. And Arabella, the Black Angel, came out in 1989. So these are very late Giallo films. All right, so one more quick look at the box here where the top was. Very nice. All right, let's keep moving. And so again, that's how they look on the shelf. They look really nice together. So glad to have those. Those are really nice additions. The next one up is called Frightmare. Nice art there on the box. This one's called Girls' School Screamers. This was another kind of a high school. I can't remember if it was high school or college. I watched this one not too long ago. It was a pretty poor slasher movie, but it was still fun in a way. You know, I think I would give it like a 4.5 or 5 out of 10. But yeah, it was pretty good. I had never seen it or even heard of it before that. And then the last one for shelf 2 was pretty good. It was called Graduation Day, another school slasher. Those are always pretty fun. This one's from the 80s. I think it was from 81 or 82. I can't remember. Something like that. So that was the end of shelf number 2. Still have 3 shelves to go, so we might as well keep moving here. Okay, so the first one up on shelf 3 is called Grandmother's House. This was really cool that Vinegar Syndrome released this, because up until this point, I don't believe it had a proper DVD release, let alone Blu-ray release. And I had a bootleg copy on DVD, which I still own. It was the only way I could watch this movie until now, so they did a really good job with this. It's a pretty good movie, too. 2 kids see something they're not supposed to see, and it's pretty good. Next one's called Grave Robbers. It's a movie from 1988. Here's another one that's a Spanish movie. I'm going to have to pull it out because I don't remember what this one translated to, but I have it in the G section, so it might be something like The Graveyard or something, but I'm going to pause it and we'll check it out really quick. So I took it out of the plastic case and I looked at the inside of the emery case. It's called Grave Robbers. So that's the English title of that, and it is a movie from 1989, and I'm trying to see if it has English audio. Yeah, it does. It looks like it has English audio and newly translated English subtitles. So that is Grave Robbers. Okay, so going from Grave Robbers to Grave Secrets. And this is another one of the VCA limited edition. You probably can't see that there because it gets washed out with the flash. But it's limited to 4,000. I got number 1,867. Pretty cool cover on the back. That's pretty amazing. This one I have a lot of fun with. This is a twin billing. You get Hard Rock Zombies as one feature, and then you have Slaughterhouse Rock as another feature. So that's a pretty good little twin billing. I thought this one was very well done. It's another haunted house type movie, haunted car, haunted house, called The Hearse. A movie from 1980. And Joseph Cotton is in here. Trish Vanderveer, who was in here, she played a very good role as the lead, kind of she was a scream queen in this movie, supernatural horror. She looks amazing in that movie too. The late great Roddy Piper, kind of a sci-fi comedy. Hell Comes to Frogtown. I think this movie has achieved cult status over the years. Kind of a sci-fi apocalyptic type movie. Very well done. Very good movie. This one's called Hellmaster. Another VCA. This one's called Hell Riders. This one was limited to 3,000. I got number 2440. Kind of a sci-fi action movie. This one was pretty bad. This is Umberto Lenzi. Umberto Lenzi was usually very good with his movies. He was a very good cult director. He did a lot of horror movies, zombie type movies and stuff like that. This one was a swing and a miss, though. I thought it's called Hitcher in the Dark. It was not very good, in my opinion. Here's Hobgoblins. Another kind of a creature feature, kind of a Gremlins type ripoff. That cover is amazing, though. I think it's really, really good. It's one of the best covers that they've ever done, I think. And I mentioned this before, but that kind of has a Reanimator vibe to me there on the cover. Has nothing to do with it, though. Here's Hollywood Horror House. I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was pretty good to see some of the old Hollywood vibe, and you can actually, I don't know if it's going to show it on the back here, but you can see the old Hollywood sign. I think this movie came out in the early 70s, and this was back when they didn't take care of that sign very well, and there was big panels of it that were rusty and falling off and swinging, and it's a far cry from what they do with it today. I mean, it's like a national monument now, and it's very well taken care of now, but back then, not so much. It's a pretty good movie, I thought. Next one's called Homegrown Horrors, Volume 1, and this is a really nice set. I'm going to pause it. We'll go through and check out the covers of each, but these are really good. You get Fatal Exam, Beyond Dream's Door, and Winter Beast. These are all American horror movies, and these are all like drive-in style movies. And this box is amazing. So let me pause it here really quick. So the first one, these are in no particular order, I just pulled them out. Beyond Dream's Door, Winter Beast, and Fatal Exam. And so Beyond Dream's Door came out in 1988. Winter Beast came out in 92, sorry about that. And Fatal Exam, 88. So again, look at this beautiful box. Looking forward to Volume 2 and beyond. So that was the Homegrown Horrors Volume 1. The next one is another really good twin billing. You get Horror High for one movie, and you get Stanley for the second movie. I thought Horror High was pretty good. Again, it's a low budget high school slasher type movie, but I thought it was pretty well done. I enjoyed it. I haven't seen Stanley in a while. Stanley was also released on DVD by Code Red years ago, but it's been a long time since I've seen it, and I didn't see it on Blu-ray yet, so I'm looking forward to checking that out. One of the best covers here. This is The House of the Dead, and this is a case where the cover is better than the movie. Movie from 1978. Yeah, this one was pretty bad. It's a horror anthology movie. Here's another VCA movie called The House of Usher. This one was limited to 4,000. I got number 1855. This one's called Ice Cream Man. Clint Howard there. And David Naughton. That is his head in an ice cream cone. David Naughton from An American Werewolf in London fame. American Werewolf in London. What the hell am I? Elmer Fudd all of a sudden. American Werewolf in London. This came out in 1994. It's pretty good. I enjoy it. What's her name is also in here? Well, Jan Michael Vincent, Olivia Hussey, right there. Can you see that? It's a pretty good movie. Pretty kind of a horror comedy, I guess. Here's kind of a Reanimator ripoff, The Immortalizer. Something that Troma would put out for sure. So you can definitely tell it is a Reanimator ripoff. This one's called Incubus. Space Rape. One of the best covers. Pretty good movie too. Fun. This is called Jack Frost with a lenticular cover, and you can see him kind of transform into a monster from a smiling snowman, I guess, to a Bloodthirsty Monster. Killer's Delight. Yes, I did see this one. This was pretty good. This was a pretty good movie. Another slasher movie. Killing Birds. This one is also called Zombie 5, I believe. Pretty bad. But it's good in a bad way. The Killing Kind. It says on the back, did you ever want to strangle your mother? What the hell? That's kind of dark. This one's pretty good. The Lamp. I love that cover. I think that cover is amazing. Next one is called, who's in there backwards? Last Gasp. You know, they really put a lot of effort into their slipcovers. Not only are they like double thick or whatever, but I mean, just look at this. It has a, it's hard to tell, it's in a plastic cover. But you have that font almost like in a mirror finish with that silver. It's embossed or debossed. And then it's hard to tell too, but that mask that's on the face and the eyes are sunk in, the mask is embossed. It really looks good. When you see it in person, it looks amazing. This one's called The Laughing Dead. This was pretty recent to my collection. I think I got that at the halfway to Friday Black Friday sale. Halfway to, what the hell am I talking about? Halfway to Black Friday. Yeah, I said it right. This one's called Liquid Sky. I'm really tired right now, guys. I apologize. Liquid Sky. This one has, I think this cover, the way that they have it made is if you touch it with your warm fingerprints, it changes the color of the cardboard for the slip. But I have it in a plastic case, so it's not going to work. But I believe that's what the gimmick of this one was. When you touched it, it would, for like a split second, like kind of like a litmus paper, it would turn it a lighter color, and then it would kind of fade back into the dark color. Here's a horror. No, this is not a horror. This is a comedy, like an adult comedy called Let My Puppets Come. I don't know why some of these are in backwards. This one's called Lucifer's Women. Another trauma type movie with another one that's in backwards called Luther the Geek. Again, another really cool cover. It has the debossed lettering and kind of like a metallic foil finish, and you can see the teeth, same thing. Here's one that I really enjoy. This is probably one of the better movies that Vinegar Syndrome has put out, and this is Madman. Everybody knows who Madman Mars is. It's another kind of a campfire horror tale about a madman that lives in the woods. If you say his name, or if you say his name too loud, he'll hear you and he'll come and get you. It's a really good backwoods slasher movie. There's another nunsploitation, kind of a satanic movie called Malabimba. I think that's how you pronounce it. There's Malibu High. Picked this one up on a sale. Every teacher in school wanted to flunk her, but nobody dared. This is another kind of a 70s exploitation type movie. Master of the World. Still have yet to see that one. This one was very good. This one's called Mausoleum. It's a drive-in style movie. I think that cover is amazing. This is one that sold out right away, and it was going for ridiculous money. Memorial Valley Massacre. This is another one that was really ridiculous, but I had a lot of fun with it. It was a pretty good slasher movie. And again, there's another one that was really, really ridiculous, but I had a lot of fun with it. It's called Mountaintop Motel Massacre. Here's a twin billing called Murder Weapon and Deadly Embrace. A couple of Linnea Quigley movies. Can never go wrong with Linnea Quigley. Here's another VCA or VSA release called Necromancer. This one was limited to 4,000. I got $31.94. Here's one that I really, really enjoy. This is kind of a guilty pleasure because the monsters in this movie are clearly rubber suits, but I really have a lot of fun with Night Beast. George Stover is in the movie. I like George Stover a lot. I chat with him once in a while. Here's another. Is this a double billing? No, this is just the single release of Nightmare Sisters, another Linnea Quigley movie. And these are really good, fun movies. There's the back of it. Get a look at that. That's pretty funny. And then I'm going to re-show you the front. Way different, hey? All right, so that, just like that, we are done with 3. We have 2 more to go, so let's keep rolling here. Hope you guys are still with me here. It's the first one on shelf number 4 is called Old Dracula. And this is a movie I have still yet to see. You know, I just noticed I have my TV on and it's showing a glare on my screen here. I'm going to pause it for a second and turn the TV off. Okay, hopefully that'll help a little bit now that I'm more than halfway done. What a dummy. Told you guys. All right, here's Olivia. I think this is another trauma movie. Maybe not. Now that I'm looking at the back, the original title was called Prozzy, I think, or that was an alternate title. This was a British movie, I think, possibly. We have Nightmare Weekend. It's a beautiful cover. There's like a sphere with blood on it, and it's a foil metallic finish. And it's not really showing here on my camera, but it looks really good. Then I have Night Owl. And I think the last time, maybe even the time before, I said, no, that's not Tobey Maguire. Every time I see that image, it looks like a young Tobey Maguire to me. Like circa Spider-Man 1, Tobey Maguire. But it's not him. The next one here is called Night Train to Terror. This is a very good slasher. It says a rock band gives their final performance on a hellbound trip into the outer reaches of horror. I like this movie quite a bit. This one is called Nothing Underneath. I still have yet to see this one. Also called Too Beautiful to Die. Now, I can't remember if it's a twin billing or the alternate title. Here's Orgy of the Dead. It's an Ed Wood movie. Movie from 1965. Oops. Next one is called Pandemonium. Kind of a horror comedy. See Judge Reinhold is in there. Paul Rubens, who played Pee Wee Herman. Party Line. The Passing. Very colorful. These are really fun, these next two. I'll pull them out side by side. It's Penitentiary and Penitentiary 2. I got lucky that I got Penitentiary 2 because it was Vinegar Syndrome had sent an email that they had low stock. This was a long time ago now, though, probably a couple of years ago already. I had Penitentiary 1 already, and they sent an email saying that they were really low on Penitentiary 2 stock, so I went and got it. And within a couple of days of that email, it was gone, so I got really lucky. Glad to have it. But these are really good movies. Prison fighting movies. Boxing. 1979. You can see Mr. T is in there. 1982. Ernie Hudson. Rudy Ray Moore, who played Mr. Dolomite. Leon Isaac Kennedy. And there's Mr. T again. And I was thinking that was Tim Liston, or whatever his name was. But I don't think that's him. I don't see his name on there. Yeah, but those are fun movies to watch. It's a good little twin billing. Perfect Strangers. Pets. Pigs. And no, this is not the documentary for Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi. This is actually a pretty good movie. Play Dead, killer dog movie. It may be the last thing you do, it says, if you play dead. This one was pretty good. The next one, Psychic Killer. I thought that was a pretty fun movie. He freed his mind and body to commit the most sensual and shocking acts imaginable. This is another good one here too, called Psycho Cop Returns. I didn't know that there was a part 1, but the last time I made a Vinegar Syndrome movie, I thought this was kind of a one-off. But somebody said that there was a Psycho Cop 1. I had never seen it before or even heard about it. Here's Punk Vacation. Kind of 80s goodness. This one here is pretty wild. It's called Raw Force. It's got a bunch of everything in it. There's fighting, there's ninjas, there's monsters, there's zombies, there's cannibals, there's machine guns, and all kinds of everything going on in this movie. It's actually pretty good, very entertaining. There's a Russian action movie called Red Mob. You can watch it with English or Russian subtitles. Here's next one's called Rest in Pieces. Pretty good. I thought this one was pretty good. Somebody had recommended that I move it up my watch pile. This was a long time ago, and I did, and it was pretty good. Called Resurrection, starring Christopher Lambert. It's almost kind of like the movie Seven with Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman. It was similar to that, not anywhere near as good. But next one are the films of Rudy Ray Moore called Dolomite, The Human Tornado, P.D. Wheatstraw, and Disco Godfather. I'll pull them out and we'll take a look at them. First we'll look at the box. And I'll pause it here and I'll pull the movies out. Okay, so there we have Dolomite. Dolomite is my name. And The Human Tornado. P.D. Wheatstraw. And Disco Godfather. And a lot of these movies came about from his stand-up act that he used to do. And he was kind of brought up through the ranks by Red Fox. And Rudy Ray Moore was a big admirer and a friend, follower of Red Fox. And Red Fox cut him a break, and he did release a couple albums. Dolomite did. He wasn't anywhere near as good as like Richard Pryor, Red Fox, guys like that, but he was pretty funny, and he did have some pretty good routines. A lot of his stand-up bits that he did on album, he had a laugh track on it. So, but some of them are pretty good. And Dolomite and P.D. Wheatstraw and stuff like that, some of those were his characters that he talked about in his routine. So, but these are fun movies, and they're kind of period pieces. It's blaxploitation from like the 70s. So, but I'm glad that they're released. Vinegar Syndrome put them out initially just as single releases, and then later on they released this beautiful box for it. It's perfect. I think it's beautiful. It's a really nice release. So moving right along past the Rudy Ray Moore box set, I just watched this one recently within the last couple weeks called Rush Week. I had a lot of fun with this. It's another kind of a school slasher movie. It's pretty good. I liked it. Then we have Satan's Blood. So I think that's another Spanish horror film. Satan's Slave. Very cool cover. We have Scanner Cop and Scanner Cop 2. And they each come with their own. I'll take them out, I guess, because this is a little bit different where there's a slip box with one entry point, and on the inside of the box it has two movies and they each have their own slipcover, so it's kind of like a double whammy. It's really cool. So I'll pause it and we'll check them out. Okay, so there again is the slip box. Then you have Scanner Cop 1, comes with its own slipcover. And these are the 4K releases of these movies, so it comes with a black case. And then you have Scanner Cop 2, the Showdown. Really nice. So I would recommend grabbing that if you guys like kind of like 80s action, sci-fi, a little bit of horror element to it as well. These are pretty good movies. Okay, so the next one up is called Scared to Death. And we have Schizoid 4K and X-Ray. This is a double bill. A more Spanish, kind of Spanish religious or satanic type horror movie called Secta Siniestra. Kind of like a Exorcist, not Exorcist, but yeah, I guess Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby, maybe kind of combined. This one's called The Severed Arm. This was really low budget, and it almost felt like it was from the 1950s. I believe it was the 60s though. And but I still had fun with this movie. It was pretty good. It had kind of a chilling ending. I'm not going to give it away, but they convinced a guy to do something to his body, and he didn't need to do it. If you watch the movie, you'll see what I'm saying. I don't want to give it away. Next one's called Shallow Grave. This one was pretty ridiculous, but I thought it was pretty fun. It's kind of like, it's almost a backwoods slasher kind of mixed with a Deliverance vibe to it. High school girls get kind of, they see something that they shouldn't have seen, and somebody finds out that they saw it, and that person makes these girls' lives a living hell. And it's pretty good. I recommend it. This one's called Silent Madness. Another kind of a mental institution patient escapes and goes on a bloody killing spree. It's pretty fun. Pretty good movie. Sister Sister. Haven't watched this one yet. I got this one recently. This has Eric Stoltz in it. Another kind of this one has become a cult classic, I guess, over the years, called Six String Samurai. Really nice box set that Vinegar Syndrome put out. And here's a good one from the 80s called Slaughterhouse. Slasher movie. About well, you guys, probably most of you guys have seen this one already by now, and there's a farmer who owns a slaughterhouse, and they're going to shut it down. I guess maybe it wasn't up to par with, some of the OSHA standards or whatever. I'm not really sure why, but they were getting shut down. And the farmer has a retarded son, and he goes on a killing spree because he doesn't want his dad to lose the business, whatever. It kind of has a Texas Chainsaw vibe to it. Here's Splatter University. This one was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Blu-ray DVD combo. So that ends shelf number 4. We have one more shelf to go, so let's get it. So here we are on shelf number 5. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you're still with me. The first one here is called Spellcaster. This is another VSA, limited edition to 4,000. I have number 2006. Next one's called Spookies. This was pretty good. I really enjoyed this one. This one is kind of a trauma style movie called The Suckling. Very low budget monster movie. This one I enjoyed, called Sudden Fury. It's kind of a unique type movie. It's very suspenseful. It's not quite a horror movie, but it does kind of leave you on the edge of your seat in some scenes. Very suspenseful. I guess it does kind of sort of have horror elements to it because there are some bad things happening. This one's called Sugar Cookies. Tammy and the T-Rex. Denise Richards, Paul Walker. Has a lenticular cover. The Telephone Book. This was one of the earliest releases that Vinegar Syndrome had, and this was even before they were releasing these beautiful slipcovers. So eventually they released the slipcover years later after they released the Blu-ray. The next one's called Televised Terror. It's another beautiful box set. This is volume 1, so I'm looking forward to the next volumes. These are all horror movies that were on television. And you get Are You in the House Alone, Calendar Girl Murders, and Child in the Night. Comes in this nice box. So that is what the covers look like. Calendar Girl Murders, Child in the Night, and Are You in the House Alone? And they used to really have some good horror movies that were released only for television, but that was years ago, back in 70s and probably even into the early mid-80s. Okay, moving right along, we have a movie called Terminal Island. We have a movie called Terror. It was buried 100 years, but never laid to rest. I thought this one was pretty good. I went into it not knowing anything about it. It's called There's Nothing Out There. And it definitely has a cool 80s, even like a Friday the 13th type vibe. It just has that kind of like the campers, hear something in the woods type deal. I thought it was really good. I really recommend that one too. This one's called The Undertaker. Joe Spinell, who was the Maniac. And there's some pretty sad stories about Joe Spinell during the filming of that movie. He was kind of coked up and he was ill, and I think he was just kind of going through the motions to get a paycheck. This one's called Through the Fire. Awesome slipcover, if nothing else, right? I still have yet to see it, but look at that cover though. Next one's called Uninvited. Killer cat movie, apparently. This one is called Unmasked, Part 25, and this was a satirical, I guess you could say it was an homage or a tongue-in-cheek kind of blasting of Friday the 13th franchise. Because, you know, Friday the 13th had like Part 4, 5, 6, all that stuff. And then I think by the time Part 6 came out for Friday the 13th, they came out with this and called it Unmasked Part 25. And it's definitely kind of a, they're poking fun at the franchise, but it's okay. It's not a great movie, but it's still pretty fun. If you are a fan of the Friday the 13th franchise, you might want to check it out just to kind of get a couple chuckles and kind of roll your eyes like, oh God, really? But yeah, they're definitely kind of blasting the Friday the 13th franchise. Here's the Vineyard, starring the great James Hong, who is still with us. I believe he is in his 90s. And if I'm not mistaken, he still does Comic-Cons and horror cons, and I think he might even be doing movies still in his 90s. Here's Wacko. This is a comedy, kind of a cult comedy. This is Whodunit, kind of a Giallo film. 7 People Are Dead and You're Next. It was pretty good. Here's Kevin Tenney's Witch Trap. Excellent release. Big fan of Kevin Tenney. Here's Wolf Pack. Kind of another high school slasher type movie. I think this is a VSA. Let's see. Yeah, it's limited to 5,000. You can't see it. But I got number 2921 out of 5,000. Here's Extra 3, sci-fi horror. Here's a ridiculous movie called Zombie Island Massacre. I put this in and watched about 20 minutes of it and took it out, but eventually I will put it in and watch it, but it's not very good. But I will watch it again, keep an open mind, and get through it. This movie is very fun. It's called Ticks. This is the 4K release in the slip box. It's very nice. Inside comes the movie with its own slipcover. Very nice release. So that was the end of the slipcovers and slip boxes editions that I have. The rest of these were never issued with slipcovers. So eventually at some point I'm sure they will, but here's a twin billing of Blood Mania and Point of Terror. Here's another twin billing of the Candy Tangerine Man and Lady Coco. Christmas Evil does have a slipcover. I just have 2 of them. This one didn't have a slipcover, but it was issued with one since, and I do have it up there. We went through it already. Corruption does have a slipcover now. I didn't get it. I missed out on it. I'll have to grab it at some point, but this is an adult movie anyway, and it's not sure if I'm even going to keep that movie. Next one is another twin billing. You get the Crypt of the Living Dead and House of the Living Dead. Yep, so it's a pretty good little twin billing. Another one called Death Machines. And like I was saying, that they will probably eventually give all of these slipcovers. They release about 2 or 3 slipcovers a year, so it may be a couple of years yet. But here's Death Row Game Show. Movie from 1988. Here's Hellbent, 1988 as well. These are the lost films of Herschel Gordon Lewis. You get Ecstasies of Women, Linda and Abilene, Black Love. 3 movies have been restored in 2K. You get Horror House on Highway 5. That's another example there of a cover that's better than the movie. This movie was pretty bad. Pretty bad. 1985. Here's a twin billing, the Jekyll and Hyde portfolio, and A Clockwork Blue. I think these are adult movies. These were limited to 1,000. I got number 451. Here's Madman. And this one did have a... Yeah, this one does have a slipcover. And I do have it, but I have an extra. This is what the slipcover looked like. We went over it earlier. I just have an extra copy of it for some reason. This one was really good. And this one should have a slipcover called Massage Parlor Murders. This is a pretty good slasher. Kind of reminded me of like a Dirty Harry movie, sort of. Here's a twin billing called Prime Evil and Lurkers. Runaway Nightmare. This one was limited to 1,000 as well. I got number 354. And Trip with the Teacher, which was pretty good. So that's the last Blu-ray. Then some years back, I don't remember, I guess it's a spring of 17, so about 5 years ago, they released, Vinegar Syndrome released a book. Let's see if you can see that. A book, and it's kind of like a catalog of their releases, and then they have a DVD, which was kind of a compilation of a lot of the trailers for the movies that they were releasing, which is pretty cool, and it's become kind of a collectible. It's a pretty good little deal. They were selling it really cheap on their website. I don't even know if they still have them anymore. And then the rest of these are just straight up DVD releases. So we have the Cutthroats movie from 1969. It says rated X. We have Night of the Strangler. Mickey Dolenz is in here. He's the last remaining monkey from the band The Monkees. And we have a double billing, The Executioner and Frozen Scream from their drive-in collection. Love them. Love these. Here is Revenge of the Virgins and Teenage Zombies. This one's really good. It's In Search of Bigfoot and Cry Wilderness, kind of a double Bigfoot billing. And the last one in the collection is called Sometimes Aunt Martha Does Dreadful Things. And this has since been released on Blu-ray, I believe. Film from 1971. So that is it for the 5 shelves. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. So let me know what your favorite editions are, and let me know which ones I'm missing that I should grab right away. And if you guys have any knowledge of the partner labels that Vinegar Syndrome has on their website, if there's anything you would recommend, or anything I should pick up from the label partners, whatever, go ahead and put that down below in the comments section. So that's it for the video. Take care, guys, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.